What is one reform that you are prepared to fight for on the council that would most positively impact the school system right now? Just one.
Mount a frontal attack on child poverty in D.C. I'm not signed for that. Mount a frontal attack on child poverty in D.C. Yes, we can do it. I'm a member of Councilman Barry's Poverty Reduction Coalition. I joined that coalition in March. How are we going to do it? In this time of economic distress, especially for the majority of people. And especially when our mayor is now proposing new budget cuts in our social service budget, eliminating vacancies for social workers who already have a caseload that's stupendous and unable to deal with their clients. We need to increase our social service budget by cutting corporate welfare. There's a huge amount of corporate welfare in our budget. $500 million in special funds, we don't even know what's in it. Because Fenton's administration has put a curtain, an opaque curtain in front. And we need to change our tax structure locally, just as Obama has pledged nationally. Our DC Democrats act like Republicans. They've refused to modestly increase the taxes on our millionaires in top 5%, analogous to what Obama has proposed, and lower it for our working class residents. And that's what we need to do to generate essential revenue so we don't get into position of the control board era where we cut the social service budget brutally.
Mike, I have to say 2 areas, but one of them has been taken care of. I've always been very much in favor of universal pre-kindergarten. And when I was back on the Board of Education many years ago, we had pre-kindergarten programs, one of the first in the nation to do so. But they weren't in all of our elementary schools. The council just voted this year universal pre-kindergarten in all of our elementary schools for our 4-year-olds. And we hope to get down to our 3-year-olds very soon. That would have been my number one, but that's now mission accomplished. So the other one is the one I spoke of earlier, and that is instructional time. When you have the number of children we have coming into our public schools, 15-year-old mothers, don't know who the father is, usually the mother is drug addicted. You need to get those children early, and you need to give them additional instructional time. And as I said, we still remain among the lowest instructional time that our students get in the United States. And I think that is an issue that we need to look at, care about, and do something about. So that's the reform I would put on the front burner. And I certainly hope that the mayor and the chancellor will. Most of you know I did not vote for the takeover. Phil Mendelssohn and I were the only two that voted against the takeover, not because I'm against school reform, but I didn't want to take our little democracy, the Board of Education, and throw them asunder. But I have been a willing and enthusiastic partner for the takeover since it has occurred, and my votes in school closing and personnel changes illustrate that.
One school reform, all right. Let me just tell you about my educational policy and philosophy. I did support the takeover. I think it was criminal what we allowed to happen in our criminal justice system prior to making the mayor and the city council responsible for our educational system. What we had was elected officials, the school board, pointing the finger at the council pointing the finger at the school board. Meanwhile, kids did not have books. Bathrooms did not work. If you could afford it, you send your kid to a private school. If you didn't, well, you might send them one where they did not have books. I'm a strong supporter of parental choice. That means I support vouchers. That means I support charter schools. I think until we get our schools fixed, we need to give parents every opportunity to give their child an education. And we're not going to play politics with education. There are some other things I think I want to do as it relates to, I'm well aware that the best way to ensure that a child gets an education is to have a parent involved. I want to have mandatory teacher-parent conferences for students who fail or in danger of failing. And we're going to make it accessible. We're going to make it in the evening, make it in the weekend, make it on Saturday. And if you won't come to us, we'll come to you. Because I think what you're going to find is that that same parent who won't come to that teacher conference is going to have some other issues dealing with her kids that we can help her with. I'm in this race to help people. The number one priority for me, I want to serve on the Human Services Committee so I can reform child and family services. I want to serve on the Committee on Housing so I can provide more affordable housing. This is all about service. So I don't know, what reforms we want to fight for? We want to fight for continued expansion of charter schools, teacher pay. I think it doesn't make sense to me that teachers are paid less than our firefighters and police officers. Thank you.
I'll say it 10 more times, but again, I'm an unequivocal supporter of the federal voucher program, charters, and homeschooling. You learn a lot in campaigns, and one thing that I was much less aware of before I started this campaign was the severe need for vocational education and jobs training. As you may have heard, I've been to approximately 20,000 residences in the district now, in all 8 wards. And in that process, especially in the areas of the community that are less off, you start to talk more about the lack of education, the dropout rates. And then I started doing police ride-alongs. You know, I started out in Trinidad doing these police ride-alongs because that's what was in the news. And I talked to people whose parents were being arrested and they had dropped out of school and they didn't have the proper skills and training. Then I went across the river to Police District 6 and 7, which are Ward 7 and 8. And what I saw there shocked me. You know, in a typical 4-hour shift, in the evening shift or midnight shift, you know, I have enough to talk about in a lifetime and what goes on there, the family abuse, domestic abuse. When you're on the scene, you talk to the children, you talk to the just barely adult children, and it's clear to me that we need to take a more comprehensive approach to vocational education. When we do so, we need to work with the employers in the district. We're more of a services-based economy, so often when people look at vocational, they only think about hammering and nailing and all that, but we need to look at more of it as a services-based economy. We need to work with the employer community, look at the jobs that will be available in the next 2, 5, 10 years, and really develop something that's more comprehensive, because as I said before, we have 40 to 50% dropout rates across the river. And outside of the parental choice options, we need to be looking for other ways to encourage and give students the skills they need to stay in school.